this article written by this fellow out in Washington. Yeah, what was your immediate reaction to it?
You know, I wasn't surprised to a certain extent because I've lived here 28 years now, and it's easy and fashionable to take shots at South Dakota, especially if you've never been here before. And so it was not exactly an original take on this guy's part. And the making fun of the Jackrabbit nickname, again, we deal with this every year at tournament time when people are not used to seeing South Dakota State or seeing the Jackrabbits. Everybody snickers and all that. That's fine. I had no problem with that stuff. I mean, again, but some of the mean-spirited stuff about the Summit League and about our town, and I mean, some of it was just factually incorrect. And if you had done even a modest amount of checking online, you would have realized that it's a much bigger deal here than people give it credit for.
Yeah, will you talk a little bit about some of the fact-checking that maybe should have been done?
Well, he wanted to compare what went on in Sioux Falls with some of the bigger tournaments, the West Coast Conference tournament where Gonzaga comes from, some of the other tournaments, one of the tournament that had been in the tournament that had been in Reno. The problem is that we outdrew all those tournaments. I mean, we outdrew, the West Coast Conference tournament where Gonzaga played, we outdrew them by 7,000. For the championship game here, and we had an even bigger crowd the night before for the semifinals. So that was, I mean, that was a laughable fact right there. And he talked about how South Dakota State had finished 6th in the Summit League, which was not true, because if you look at the standings, you clearly see they were tied for 4th. It's semantics, but it's still factually incorrect. And the other thing was, because they tied for 4th, they were the 4th seed in the tournament. And so the 4th seed winning a conference tournament as compared to the 6th seed is a little bit of a difference and gives them a little bit more credence than he did. Now, is Gonzaga a prohibitive favorite in this game and will and probably should win? Yeah, but that's why they play the games. But again, to tear down somebody else to build yourself up doesn't really surprise me. But this guy is the kind of guy that feeds off this kind of attention, and so whatever.
And we sort of go through this every time one of our teams ends up in the tournament. Why do you think that this happens every year, and why these writers sort of don't do their fact-checking? We do have so many resources here in Sioux Falls that they could very easily talk to. They could talk to you guys. They could talk to our friends over at Kello. Yeah. They could talk to the Summit League folks. They could talk to the Denny, but they don't. Why do you think that happens?
The politically correct answer is that there are a lot of teams. And so there are a lot of teams to keep track of on the men's and women's side. You're talking about close to 130 teams to keep track of. That's the politically correct answer. The real answer is they're lazy. The national media is lazy. I mean, they don't care to check into somebody that they think is going to be a one and done in the tournament. And so they're going to give us lip service. And if they think we're San Diego State because they see SDSU, they're going to do that. The problem is now, we have had a men's or women's school from the state of South Dakota in the NCAA tournament for every year since 2009. Every single year since 2009, we've had a men's or women's school, and a lot of years both. By now, I think they might have figured it out. I know Scott Van Pelt has figured it out from ESPN because he's been very apologetic, but he was one of the guys that did the San Diego State thing and all that. You get the Jackrabbit and the Coyote thing confused. The Salt Lake City Tribune this week ran a story previewing the games that were going to be there, talked about South Dakota State, and put up a picture of Matt Mooney from USD on their preview about South Dakota State. It's just lazy. It's just, I mean, we don't matter. They just wave their hand over that part of the map. And so it's, you come to expect it. Part of living in this part of the world, you get an inferiority complex anyway, in terms of what the rest of the country thinks. But again, the good-natured stuff, the lazy stuff, the ignorant stuff, you can give people a pass on that because you kind of expect that. The mean-spirited stuff, that's what goes too far, and that's why I and a lot of other people had to point it out, because you can take a shot at somebody if you've got your facts right. But the fact of the matter is, we've got a really good thing going here, and a lot of conferences that are a lot bigger than the Summit League would kill to have what we have here in Sioux Falls in terms of this conference tournament. So, back off.
And part of that thing is Sioux Falls growth. Will you talk a little bit about that as well?
Well, yeah, the town is growing. I mean, the town's grown a lot in the 28 years I've been here, but what really has grown is the vision. The Sioux Falls Sports Authority, which has now been around for 10 years, they're the ones that really have been the catalyst behind this whole thing, because they were just dumb enough to think it could happen. And so they actually went out and said, we're going to dream big, we're going to swing for the fences, and goodness knows, maybe we're actually going to land some of these things. And they got the Summit League tournament. That was the key thing, because everything we've had since then has been built on the success of the Summit League tournament. Because people look at where we are, and they look at these numbers and it doesn't compute. How can you get that many people to show up there for basketball? Not just men's basketball, women's basketball as well. Division I, Division II. And that's leading to all the things that we've had now, and is going to lead to bigger and better things in the future as well, because the Sports Authority now has the facility to market with the Premier Center, and the Sioux Falls Visitors and Convention Bureau backs them as well with all the other support, and so it's a pretty great combination.
What would you like to say to Brandon?
I initially thought I wanted to invite him here, but I think I'm just going to leave him in his small little town. Because keep in mind, this is a guy that lives in a place that has 2,600 people. And he's taking shots at the largest city in a very large region, which is a progressive town, which is bringing new things in all the time, which has a lot to offer. He can sit back and enjoy all the attention that he's getting, because we're all going to forget about him. Long after all these successful tournaments keep coming to town, he will be an afterthought in all of our minds.